Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
In this day of stay at home and work from home, home has never meant more than it does today. Whether you're looking to buy, rent, or build your new home, now is the time to get going. Gittins & Gittins real estate agents are here to take you to that place of your dreams. Let us take you home. We'll help you find that rental to rest along the way or journey with you to find your home destination. Investors and commercial enterprises too, call us and we'll walk the distance to place your business in just the right location. Owners, leave the headaches to us. We'll find your tenants or buyers while you stay at home. We'll even manage your property at your bidding. Anything real estate, come home to Gittins & Gittins Real Estate. Call us at 760-3280 or 747-1220 or visit us at 16 Fifth Street in Woodbrook.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Takia Thompson, your host for our Motivational Monday show. Trying to build new strength while breaking unproductive habits, we've all experienced it. Knowing exactly what needs to be done, but struggling to do it, or to even find the motivation, energy, or focus to actually do it. Whether it's putting off important tasks, procrastinating on personal goals, or feeling stuck in a cycle of unproductive habits, many people mistakenly label themselves of unproductive habits and even call themselves lazy. But experts say the issue often goes much deeper than a lack of willpower. Our daily routines, thought patterns, and even our brain chemistry can shape our behaviors, influence everything from motivation and discipline to productivity and success. The good news is that brain adaptability is something that we can aspire to achieve through consistency, rewiring the mind, breaking negative patterns, and even build greater mental strength. But how do we get there? Let's find out more in our Mindset Aspect segment. Today, we sit down with none other than therapist Sharon Bermudez to explore how to develop mental resilience and how it can help us shape up and become more productive to achieve our goals. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great, and you?
I'm well, thanks.
So, Sharon, we want to start off right away. What is mental resilience or strength, and why is it so important for us to have in our daily lives?
Okay, so first of all, every profession have their language, right?
Yeah.
So they have different words to describe different things. From psychologists' perspective, they don't so much speak to the term of mental strength, but there are some other terms that they speak to that can easily kind of fit into that word that we may use to describe it. So two of the words that I want to kind of introduce you all to is just the idea of resilience, that part of having mental strength is having some level of resilience, as well as some level of mental toughness to us. And resilience will sort of be the ability to be adaptable, to be flexible, to be responsive to the situations that kind of knock us off, whatever is the difficulty, the challenge, the trauma that has made it difficult for us to be able to move forward. We find our way to kind of bounce back and look at what do I need to change in order to be able to get a different result, and we put ourselves back on the road. When we come to the area of this, my brain just stopped. The other one that I mentioned that will come back to me just now, that's actually coming from sports psychology. And so I think it's very appropriate to think about it, mental pressure. At this time of the World Cup, that's saying that the person has the ability to be consistent, to be committed, to be confident, to be focused, even when they are under intense pressure. So those are some of the qualities of somebody who has that level of mental toughness. They think that they have the ability to affect the outcome in some kind of way. They are confident that they are able to manage their emotional space when things are going out of whack, in order to get them back on track. They have set a goal that they are committed to, and they will experience difficulties. They expect to experience difficulties, but regardless of what, they are laser focused on the goal that they have, and they will push through to be able to achieve the goal. And they think about challenges in a different way, whereas we may think of challenges as the stone that is being put on us, that is pressing us down, that is going to stop us from persevering. They are going to reframe that same stone and look at it as the stone that they are going to step onto to get them to where they want to go. So somebody who has that level of mental toughness, it's not that they are born with this innate toughness that can withstand any circumstance. It is a skill that they develop over time, where they teach themselves to be able to push forward. And as to why it's important, well, just think of the notion of strength. Why do you want strength? Why do you want physical strength? You don't know what's going to happen today. You don't know what you're going to have to lift up, or what you're going to have to move. If something were to fall on you and you have to push it off, strength is needed within the day. And you want it to be available to you when it is needed. Whether it has a little bit of strength or a lot of strength, you want it to be available to you. But if you don't practice and get your muscles strong enough to be able to lift things when you need it, it's not. I don't know what I'm going to need on this day. This could be a really great day, and I don't have any major challenges, or I have small challenges, and I just need a little piece of my mental strength to get me through the day. Or this could be a day where anything and everything goes wrong, and I just don't know. I have this big project, I have this big meeting, I have this big commitment, whatever the case may be, and somewhere I have to draw from something that allows me to be able to get to where I want to go, and I want to have access to that mental strength.
Absolutely. And along those lines, in terms of having the mental strength, many people sometimes tend to say, they're lazy, but is laziness a real condition, or is it often something of a symptom that would go deeper?
Well, psychology tends to lean into laziness is about more, right? When we use the word lazy, we use it in a kind of a pathologizing sense. Just think about what you say. I am lazy. You are lazy. You're not doing your homework. You're lazy, right? I am is coming from the verb to be, which is the entirety of you. And really, you're making a statement when you say that I am lazy, or the person is lazy, that they generally do not tend to to get things done, want to get things done. They don't like to work.
Yeah.
You're making a statement with regard to that. But I think in general, what we believe is that people have some level of intrinsic motivation, right? They can be externally motivated by other things, but people want to get up and just around, do nothing, accomplish nothing. And that's how I want to live my life. If I'm going to be 70 years old, for 70 years old, I just want to accomplish nothing. Everybody has something that they are wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
This is not to say that there may not be a day when I wake up and I just really don't want to. But again, that's very different from I am lazy.
Yes.
So that leans into where psychology goes. Psychology goes that there's probably a deeper reason behind the laziness. What is the reason for today? Is it that I'm feeling sick today? Is it that I'm very tired because I had a very hectic weekend? Is it that this task feels so big to me and I do not begin to know how I'm going to accomplish it, either in terms of the size or in terms of the technical difficulty? So I don't really want to even start it because I don't think I'll be good about it. Is it about my perfectionism and my desire for this to be as good as it could be? There could be so many different reasons, but this putting of a label that tends to be a pejorative label onto yourself or onto somebody else generally does not tend to be very helpful. What tends to be more helpful is to understand what's happening today, that I planned to do so and so, or I know I need to do so and so, but I am not getting it done.
Yeah. And you ended on it, and to me that's like a whole thing right there, because it's a cycle with persons falling into knowing they have things to do but not doing it. And I believe you did answer the question as to why that is the case. Now, are there certain daily habits that contribute to low productivity?
There are quite a lot, actually, and some that might very well surprise you.
Wow.
For example, I believe that you may have been familiar with the time that everybody was touting the great importance of multitasking.
Oh, wow.
And that it was a wonderful thing to do. If you're a multitasker, then that means that you're very accomplished. Well, we have debunked that. Multitasking, the brain is not designed to work very well with multitasking, and we actually end up being less productive as a result of multitasking. One estimate that I read said something like 40% less.
Wow.
So that is one of them. Another one is just this idea of taking no breaks. Let's just get this job done.
Yeah.
Let's do what we have to do. Let's drill down, dig deep. So we're skipping our breaks and we are skipping our lunch and we are just going. Again, the brain is not designed to go like that indefinitely. That is a rule to burnout. So over time, you are going to get diminishing returns on whatever task that you're doing. Maybe the quality of the work is going to drop. Maybe how much you're able to push out is going to drop because you're not taking a break. And a simple act, it doesn't have to be a long break. There are times when you will need a long break, but the simple act of taking 5 minutes can make a big difference in resetting yourself and allowing yourself to go back really well into a task.
Yeah.
Let's see. There are a few more, but I will stop at those two for now.
Okay. No, I do believe the ones that you shared are very informative, because a lot of persons, we tell ourselves if we multitask, we get more done, and it's probably going to push up the productivity, but to hear that it actually lowers it, thank you for sharing that.
It's a bit scary. And I think it's just in general, it is what it is for you, which is always the baseline. The thing with psychology is that it has great research, wonderful research that covers tens and hundreds of thousands of people at a time, depending on the size of a study.
Right.
But it's never going to be representative of every single person. So what is it for you? I'll use me as an example. Now that I'm in my own private practice, my practice is hybrid. So I work from home sometimes, and sometimes I'm in an external office.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, how I start a day is how I'm going to end the day. If I start with, tired and I'm not really feeling to get up, and I don't have a client book, so let me relax a little bit. And I don't do something that says in my brain, I am on a work day.
Right.
So I delay going and having a bath. I delay putting on work clothes. I sit down and watch something on TV, etc. And my plan might be, okay, my client is at 10:30. By 10 o'clock, I'll be ready to go and I'll have a long day. But because I work better in the mornings, I get more productivity out of the mornings. Those first 2 or 3 hours where I'm actually doing those other stuff works against me.
Yeah.
And by the time I'm ready to kind of pick up and move forward, I can't do it. So that's why I said it's part of it is just you. You could look at you and see how you have been functioning, what has helped you to be productive, what has not helped you to be productive. One last one that I will give you is where do you do the things that are hard? Whatever is the hard task for you. Some people will put it when they have least energy, but where you should put it is where you have most energy. So because we avoid things that we find very hard, we might want to do the things that are easier. Let me make the telephone calls. Let me go through the email. Let me do this administrative thing, whatever it is. But if you are like me and morning is your time with greatest energy, you're actually burning out the time with greatest energy to focus on the things that are easier for you to do. It's actually better for you to hard start into the thing that is difficult for you, that is taking the most energy, and then to kind of come down in terms of your energy levels.
Wow. Yeah. And in a sense, you see, sometimes we live in a world, or we actually do live in a world where social media is a thing and technology is a thing. So can you tell us what impact can social media have on influencing our mental strength?
Okay, so again, remember mental strength is combining resilience and this level of mental toughness.
Yes.
Nowhere in resilience and mental toughness is this idea that life is easy, right? Inbuilt into it is the notion that you are going to have your challenges, you're going to have your difficulties, and it is about how do I rebound and how do I deal with those difficulties so that I do not allow it to crush me. Essentially, the thing with social media is that social media, in terms of our brain, we develop a kind of a relationship with social media that is very interesting. Because whenever we scroll and we're going through a particular thing that is interesting to us, or somebody gives us a reply, or somebody gives us a thumbs up or a love sign, etc., there's actually some release of some pleasure hormones into the brain that is acting as a reward center. You're getting rewarded for every single activity that you are going through in social media, except I guess if you're ending up in a trolling war with somebody. But for the most part, it is an activity that is rewarding you for what you do on it. But this is not life. Life don't always reward, right? When you are dealing with challenges, it doesn't, you're not always going to get somebody saying good job. You're not always going to get recognition. You may be trying your best and somebody is saying the worst things about you, and you're getting a lot of pushback on something that you think is very important. And you have to be able to learn to live with uncomfortableness as well. You have to be able to learn to live with struggle as well. So to the extent that with social media, we end up being more rewarded than not. Sometimes if we get too far into it, we could kind of lose our ability to deal with uncomfortableness and struggle.
Yeah.
So interestingly, when I was doing the research for this segment, one of the things they suggested is that you give yourself 5 minutes where you just do not go on social media and do not engage in anything that is going to kind of stimulate the dump of those pleasure hormones, and you allow yourself to sit in the uncomfortableness so that you can build that strength for what happens when struggle is there and I'm not quite getting what I want.
Absolutely. And back to what you was talking, is it really possible to rewrite the brain and change those long-standing habits? And maybe you can tell us, what does that process look like?
All right. So it is absolutely possible to change the brain. Good news of neuroplasticity. I am not a medical doctor, and I was terrible at biology in school. So I'm not even going to try to explain something that is well beyond my competence to explain. But the good news of neuroplasticity is that the brain has very, very strong capacity for change.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to use an example to try to explain this. I'm going to be very unusual in how I'm going to explain this. Excuse me 1 second.
Sure.
This is how I would try to explain it to my clients. So now you're getting to see a little bit more than you may need to see. But how I would normally be doing this is to kind of say, other than my gray hairs and my thinning hair, is there anything that you're seeing down in my hair?
In your hair, no. Well,
No?
No.
Are you seeing a path?
Well, yes, we can see the parts.
Yes.
To show your
You can
scalp.
see the
Yes.
path. Do you know where that path came from? That path came from roughly age 4 to 12. Because in the 1980s, the preferred hairstyle to go to school was the good old pigtails. You know the pigtails? You cut
When you have it
off
into...
Yes, that's right. And from roughly 4 to 12 or 13, every day that I went to school, my mother would cut my hair in half and put it into pigtails.
Wow.
Now, as soon as I had the ability to change that, I did, which it was in my teenage years. Every now and then, for nostalgia's sake, I'll put it up in pigtails, but that does not happen much.
Right.
So that path is something that actually developed from the repeated action of being cut in half for 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
Now I'm a few decades past that age. We wouldn't go into how many, but the path is still there.
Yeah.
That is a small way of trying to describe the notion of a neural pathway, right? A neural pathway develops as we engage a behavior over and over and over again. So you engage a behavior one time. I really, really need to incorporate exercise into my life. This is so important today. Today I am making the sacrifice and I am going to exercise. And you do it once, you don't have much of a neural pathway. But if you try to exercise, let's say the recommended frequency for mental health reasons is 3 to 5 times a week, 30 to 45 minutes each time a cardio-related activity. But what will develop the neural pathway is actually the frequency. So let's say that you put yourself on a program where for the next 3 months, I am going to exercise 5 times a week. And you exercise 5 times a week. The neural pathway related to that behavior is going to deepen and deepen and deepen and deepen.
Yeah.
So that it becomes like a highway that is well developed. And so, whereas the first time that you tried to exercise, it absolutely was a struggle. By the time you have developed this habit, it becomes much easier.
Yeah.
As much as I say that, you could not take care of the highway. So you could get into a really good groove with exercising. and not take, then you fall out of it. And it starts to get grass and things begin to break up and whatnot. Essentially what happens is that the neural pathway is going to close, and therefore you're not going to fall into the behavior as well. What I have just tried to describe is a little bit in my own layman language of what happens with neuroplasticity.
Wow.
But neuroplasticity has absolutely shown that the brain has the capacity to change, and that one of the things that activates that change is just this decision to repeatedly engage a behavior over and over and over again in order to deepen the neural pathway for the behavior that you want, and you can replace another neural pathway for behavior that you don't want.
Yeah. Wow. And your example was spot on. I do believe persons watching would have been able to grasp what you've been trying to tell us. So thank you for that example. In terms of when it comes to feeling overwhelmed and, you know, to just start up, how can people overcome that feeling in general?
All right, so I want to complicate things a little bit.
Okay.
There's feeling overwhelmed, so I'll answer that question. But there's something called the state of overwhelm. The feeling overwhelmed and state of overwhelm is two entirely different animals. So part of what you have to figure out is which one are you experiencing right now? Are you feeling overwhelmed, or are you in the state of overwhelm? Feeling overwhelmed might look like I'm looking at everything that I have to do today. I have to do this with the kids, and I have to go to work, and I have this big project that is due, and then I need to come home and cook, and etc. And I have all of these things, and oh my God, how am I, when I look down this list, how is it possible? How am I going to get all of this done?
Yeah.
It's a temporary state. It's a transient state. So when you're in the feeling of overwhelm, part of it is that you have to emotionally regulate yourself, because when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm in a negative emotional state that is going to impede me from taking further actions. So rather than just kind of pushing through and ignoring the emotional state, I need to attend to the emotional state. I need to attend to the physical state and do something to ground myself emotionally and physically. That could be through use of deep breathing. That could be stepping away from the task for a couple of minutes. That could be utilizing some sort of visualization activity that brings you back to the senses. There are a number of different skills that you could use for that purpose.
Right.
But first thing that you're trying to do is just to bring yourself back into a space where you are able to push forward. And thereafter, you could just kind of take everything that is, you know, circling in your brain for the 20 things that you have to do, and just dump it on a piece of paper. Just pull that piece of paper. It's not a diary. You're not writing a diary. You're just listing down every single thing that you think that you have to accomplish within that day.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of ruthlessly going through that list and saying, okay, if I only have time for 3 of these things today, what are the top 3? And so you have your top 3 that you have at hand now. And now you are just following the prioritization and starting a task. You're not telling yourself, I need to finish this task. You're just starting it. So there's something called the 2-minute rule.
Yeah.
You could just say that, okay, if my task is to, you know, I'm really not feeling great today, and I don't really want to do this interview today. But you know what? I have to be here. I have to do the interview. So I'm going to put myself in this space, and I'm going to do the first 2 minutes. In this case, my example kind of fall apart because you can't jump out of the interview. But for something else that you have the ability to jump out of, you're not committing that I am going to continue all the way through. You're just committing for this 2 minutes, and you're starting.
Yeah.
For many people, the act of starting will lead into a motivation loop. And by the time that 2 minutes is up, okay, already here, and you will continue. So that just do it principle that I have mentioned in the past is going to come into play here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Sharon, for coming on. And just before you go, what is one habit you believe could dramatically improve persons' productivity and their mental strength moving forward?
Well, it's not per se a habit in relation to productivity. It's just what I actually think is the most critical thing.
Yeah.
Is practice makes permanent. When we are talking about this notion of resilience, resilience is something that we build capacity for. When we are talking about mental toughness, mental toughness is something that you build capacity for. That's about skills. Skills is something that build with practice. So it really doesn't make sense, you watch this morning program and you get really motivated. Wow, that interview was really good. That was really interesting. You listen to it and you don't do anything. The best thing to build your skill level for any of the things that we talked about, and ultimately all of that will feed back into productivity, is to make a conscientious decision every day that I am going to practice one thing that I have learned that is going to help me to build productivity, so that I build up the strength. Again, leaning back into what does strength give us? Strength gives us potentiality.
Yes.
That on the day I need a little bit of strength, it's available to me. On the day I need a lot of strength, it's available to me. I will never know how much strength I'll need on this given day. So I'm just going to build myself up so that I have as much as can be needed, so that on the day that it knocks me down, I will have it available to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that and for leaving us with, of course, important information, informative information, and tips to go about today.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, we are about to take a short break, and when we come back, we have more engaging conversations, so stay with us.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Welcome back to our What's Happening segment now. The arrest of activist Alyssa Phillip and her mother, Camille Carriscourt, during Labor Day celebrations in Faizabad last Friday have ignited a national debate over citizens' right to protest and the extent of police powers. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service maintains that the pair participated in an unauthorized procession and insists officers acted lawfully in enforcing the provisions of the Summary Offences Act. Meanwhile, former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith is challenging that position, arguing that while the law may have been applied, it is narrower sense the action of the police ignored the spirit of law and the long-standing practice surrounding Labor Day celebrations. Griffith has described the arrest as an example of selective enforcement and questioned why this particular group was singled out when various organizations and individuals have traditionally participated in the Labor Day marches under a broader umbrella without obtaining separate permits. Today we speak with Mr. Griffith about his concerns, the legal and policing implications of the arrest, and what this incident could mean for public trust in law enforcement going forward. Good morning, Mr. Griffith.
Hi, good morning.
So right off the bat, you described the arrest as an example of understanding the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. What exactly do you mean by that, and why do you believe the TTPS misapplied the law in this instance?
Well, good morning again. It's not about misapplied. It's about interpretation. Again, as I mentioned, there's a letter of the law and there's the spirit of the law. And sometimes this is where common sense and judgment will come in. This is why public trust and confidence in the police service was 59% just a few years ago, and now it's probably less than 5% now. But these are the same police officers. So it is not to criticize the police officers on the ground. It is how it is being filtered down from the hierarchy of the police service. So in a situation like that, the police may very well have been correct based on the technicality of the law, in that if there was an approval made for a specific type of marching and for Labor Day as it pertains to workers' rights, and then someone decides to have a march on something else totally separated, the police can very well use that as a technicality to arrest. And this is where the situation comes in of leadership, maturity, flexibility, understanding the situation, reading the room. This is what the hierarchy is lacking at this time. So they might very well say, look, I did what is there within the law. But that is probably why it is that we had Labor Day movement in the first place, because of the colonial laws that we would have seen almost 100 years ago. And laws were actually put in there to suppress the masses. And the police service, instead of them understanding that because we have governments that have not made amendments to the law, they are working to the letter of the law. So when you have situations where two little boys could be at a corner and be arrested by police officers if they didn't like one of the boys because he was with his girlfriend, and arrest them for something called loitering. That is real Banana Republic 1930s type of policing based on using a law of loitering. You see two persons on a corner, obscene language, obstructing a police officer in the line of duty, public disorder, resisting arrest. I mean, this young girl is less than 100 pounds, and you are claiming that she resisted arrest with over 50 fully armed officers ready to fight a war. So all of these things, it doesn't look good. It's the whole image of it. And with that, there's something in the military and even in law enforcement known as minimum use of force. In the army, it is known as economy of effort. You don't use a sledgehammer to kill a fly. You're telling me a girl weighing about 5 feet tall, weighing less than 100 pounds, you need that type of force to suppress her and to arrest her. So all of these things, it does not look good. It does not assist the image of the police service. And again, people automatically said, well, what would you have done? I had the exact situation when I was Commissioner of Police with Black Lives Matter. There were over 500 people decided to protest without the permission of the police service. They went opposite the U.S. Embassy, and I knew exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted confrontation. Some people wanted to be arrested to make themselves heroes. What I did, I allowed them to march. I allowed them to protest, and I went in there, I walked along there and explained to them, the situation in the United States would not happen here because 99% of the police officers are Trinidadian, or they're not white. So what you're seeing in the United States will not happen here. That is how you deal with the situation. Immediately was diffused. What the police have done is continue to embolden Ms. Phillip and others. And what it is doing is it is causing many persons to turn against the police service. Unfortunately, it is getting people to get the perception that it is a police state. You do not have the authorization to protest, to voice your views. And unfortunately, this has become yet again political, because those people who are PNM or UNC till they die, the UNC till they die supporters actually believe that the people being concerned about this, it is an indication that they are against the government. The actions of the police and policies of the government are two totally different things. You can't box in the government based on the actions the police are doing. But people that are so supportive of this government, they believe that by this happening, it is people pointing fingers at the government. So we have to find a way to blame Alicia Phillip and attack her. And it all goes back to people understanding a situation. I don't want to go into the Samru matter, but this is a perfect example where people were trying to say, well, those two people who were shot at, why it is you went and trying to escape from the police in the first place. That is not the point. For people who need to do a little bit of education, let's go back to somebody called Rodney King. Rodney King was actually trying to avoid the police. It was a car chase. He was trying to escape from the police. When the police finally contacted him, intercepted him, they beat him to a frazzle. And what the end result was the worst, the highest civil unrest in the history of the United States, with over 63 people being murdered. You didn't hear any idiot in the United States say, well, why he was escaping from the police in the first place, he looked for that. We need to educate ourselves and stop being so blinded by politics, understand the situation. And with all of this, it is hope that the police understand that what you're doing is not in any way building public trust and confidence in the police service.
Yeah. And along the lines, do you believe the legislation governing public marches need reform in our country? And would you say that some of the laws are maybe a bit outdated and incompatible with the modern democratic principles?
Yeah, I just said that a few minutes ago. These are laws that in the 1930s, as it pertains to loitering, public disorder, resisting arrest, obstructing a police officer in the line of duty, disorderly disturbance of the peace. All of these laws were deliberately structured in the 1930s and so forth to suppress the masses because you had a limited number of police officers. You can't use these laws still, because when you use these laws, because we're now coming into the second quarter of the 21st century, and we are using laws in the first quarter of the 20th century, people are going to, because people, based on social media technology, people are seeing what people have rights to do worldwide. And when it is you operate like that, you automatically gravitate into people believing that this is a police state. So even though the police may be correct on looking at the letter of the law, they need to have the maturity to understand the spirit of the law. And therein lies the problem, because it goes right back to the line minister was middle management. The man never had more than about 10 people under his command. Now he has over 20,000. He never had over $100 to say about. Now he has 6,000 million. The same with the commissioner of police. He was middle management or superintendent of such. He never led more than 20 odd persons. Now he's in charge of 7,500. They need to get mature very fast to understand this old-time type of policing about, I will tell you what to do. The police coming to show what police can do is not the avenue. When I inherited the police service, public trust was 14%. I left it at 59% by doing just that. Whilst at the same time ensuring that police officers will be protected, they will be disciplined, and also making sure that we can protect and serve by building public trust and confidence. To move from 59% to less than 8%, and then you have a minister sitting, oh yeah, the commissioner, he has done an excellent job. You have a media house that continues to contact criminologists, Randy C. Prasad and others, where every single thing, if France wins the World Cup, he will probably commend Guerrero on the police service. That is what C. Prasad is doing as a criminologist. By the way, a criminologist has no training in law enforcement. But so people are handpicking individuals to try to promote, whilst others are trying to discredit. My take on it is I am speaking of facts. The police service needs to, instead of just pinpointing the letter of the law, they need to educate themselves and have that maturity to understand the spirit of the law.
Mm-hmm. And along the lines, right, do you believe the current police leadership owes the public further explanations on the matter?
Yeah, but they won't, because they will use the word intelligence. Every single time the police will do something outside of logic, common sense, they will use the word intelligence. So intelligence has revealed that we must have 15 places as non-protest zones. You're telling me persons who are unarmed stand up in front of the Ministry of Finance, that will be a threat to national security? That is an indication of your incompetence to lead. Because if it is that you could say you have 7,500 police officers under your command, and you feel that you're unable to have people have a protest outside the DPP's office or the Ministry of Finance, who may be mostly women, elderly persons, unarmed persons, and you need to have a law to prevent them from doing that, you are now suppressing persons from their rights to protest. And by doing that, you cannot justify it, so you use the word intelligence. What intelligence could reveal that if people decide to protest, it will be a threat to national security? Total nonsense. But again, this commissioner of police, he has a 3-point crime plan in the last year, a state of emergency. If that doesn't work, he will probably try a state of emergency, and then maybe then he will go with a state of emergency. That is your crime plan. And again, we have criminologists stating that he has done a good job by having the only crime plan he has is a state of emergency. So the police, they're not going to be able to justify their actions. What they're doing now is trying to work to the letter of the law. And we have seen it in Port of Spain, where a man was arguing with a senior police officer. The police officer, you could see that he's grinding, and then the man is walking away, and then he said, "You see me, I can't take anymore. You're disrespecting me," and then rushes and arrests him. It also happened in the Labor Day celebration. An elderly man about 80 years old is arguing with a senior police officer, and the officer has the audacity to tell the man, "You only grandstanding there because the media there. You're passing out of place." If the man wants to do that, is his right. If he wants to play himself because the media is there, who are you as a police officer to make that comment? That is not your role and function. I am starting to see police officers reaching a point where they are going outside of their remit. Over this weekend, some young persons were going to a nightclub, I think it was Zen, and a police officer in uniform has the audacity to be telling and arguing with people, telling them you can't walk into this part of the place. That is not your role and function. You're not a bodyguard, you're not a bouncer. So police officers now, they seem to get this perception that they are invincible, they are untouchable, and that is what I put an end to. I transform the police service by putting public trust and confidence, by putting disciplinary action, 482 Gary to let people contact me if police officers abuse their authority, working hand in hand with the police complaint authority, issuing body cameras. Let's listen to just a few days ago. The Commissioner of Police continued to mislead the country by stating that body cameras that we had initially were not good. That is a lie. I am calling you out. I asked people type AXON and GTEC, but a media person decides to say, yes, the man said the body cameras were not good. These body cameras are used by most police departments in North America. He then had the audacity to say that, well, it couldn't be turned on, it could be turned on and turned off. That is what you're supposed to do. He then lied to the country by stating he inherited contracts that could not be released. That is a lie. No commissioner of police has authority to keep the police service binded to any contract. After the commissioner leaves, you can immediately remove it, because you could only do it everything on a year-to-year basis. So he has continued to make false statements to discredit the same police service that he leads because of his to banker over people who may have done better than him. He needs to be a little more mature. Just do your job. Stop worrying about the relevance or the popularity of those that were there before him, and try to build public trust and confidence. It is not happening when your only job is to try to show what police can do and just be moving in there to have 50 persons armed to the teeth as if you're going into a war zone to arrest a 5-foot, 100-pound young lady.
Yeah. And you may have touched on this and answered this, but just to elaborate or expand, looking ahead, the charges for or against Alyssa Phillip and Camille, should they be reconsidered?
Well, I will think so. Common sense should prevail. If it is you want to go right through to the letter of the law, this can actually be a very significant moment in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. A judge might very well say in this modern time that law is outdated, because going right back to the situation, you heard the union leader say that she was invited. She was invited with them. And then those people who are sympathetic, if not obsessed as political puppets to this government, they believe that, well, then you're trying to challenge the government, so we have to prove that this little girl was wrong in what she did. If it is that she was invited, how could the police state that, you didn't have permission? Well, then the leader of the opposition and Minister Dave Tanku should have been arrested as well, because they weren't part of a trade union movement, but they were invited in the same manner as this young lady. So there's a saying, you cannot be half pregnant. We had Stephen Cady's Keith Noel walk, where over 50,000 people attended, hundreds of different organizations, movements, and so forth. At no time, any police officer at that time under, I think, it would have been Stephen Williams, would have been so stupid to state, well, you don't have permission, you don't have permission, it's only Stephen Cady's has permission. It doesn't work that way. The Labor Day is a time it is not about a march over workers' rights. It is a march to deal with the removal of that suppression of oppression, of your fighting for your rights, your democratic right, your right to protest, your right to view your concerns. Everything that they did on Labor Day was meant to deal with all of the problems of the post-colonial era, and the police decided to go back to pre-colonial laws to try to use that as an interpretation to suppress the same persons for their right to view their concerns. That is not democracy, that is hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm. And coming to an end, because you mentioned it, so to reiterate but also summarize, what changes, if any, would you like to see in how the TTPS handles public demonstrations going forward?
Well, you have to do it on a case basis, and you have, like the camera is stuck.
Yeah, okay, you're good now.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it has to be done on a case-by-case basis. If it is that you see persons are coming out with Molotov cocktails and baseball bats, as I experienced under the Black Lives Matter, the 150 young men were coming down Frederick Street with bottles and pieces of wood and cocktails and stuff. They were going to destroy Port of Spain. I had to use tear gas. We had to turn them out, divert them back, heading east of Duke Street to protect Port of Spain from being burnt. That is something totally different. So you see a handful of unarmed persons, mainly women, elderly persons, in a group outside the commissioner's office. And I think this has become more of a personal nature by the police, because her concerns were about police oppression and so forth. And it seems that the police saying, you can't talk up to me about that. That is your right. In the United States, you can argue with police officers. You can debate with them. You can't touch them. You can't be involved in physical confrontation with them. So it is important that we need to really look at the legislation. Two little boys standing up on a street corner, you could be charged for loitering. You could argue with a police officer and be arrested. You can easily, if it is the police say, I'm arresting you, and you say, but why are you doing that to me for? You are now charged for resisting arrest, even though it is that you didn't fight while it is you were being handcuffed. So we have many laws based on the colonial era that are being utilized by police officers now. And because of that, as I said, in the second quarter of the 21st century, citizens are fully aware. They're fully aware of what happens worldwide, and what we are doing, we're way behind the 8 ball. And if it is that amendments need to be made in Parliament, it must be done. If the police service hierarchy does not have the maturity to understand, you cannot be using colonial laws to suppress persons, because when that happens, people are not going to say, well, you're looking at the letter of the law. They're going to state police abuse, police state, and the lack and trust of the police service would continue to diminish, which is something that I do not want.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Griffith, for coming on and being a part of this morning's conversation. As always, timely and informative with what you share with us. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Take care.
Guys, as we close off today's show, we hope that you were able to receive something, whether it's how to stimulate your mind or just get some more informative information on the legislations and what is happening in our country. But we hope that you can take away something. And as I always say to close, stay safe, stay informed, stay positive. Up next, we do have Sean Michael Small at 8 with Talking Points. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Goodbye.
WESN.
Trinidad and Tobago, get ready for a musical explosion of freedom, culture, and pure steel band magic.
Featuring 5 of the nation's super bands, plus their talented youth bands.
Get ready for generations of steel.
The ultimate celebration of our national instrument.
Featuring 5 of the nation's super bands, plus their talented youth band.
Experience the power and passion of Desperados,
Shell Invaders,
Massey Trinidad All-Stars,
First Citizens Supernovas,
and the pride of the South.